So, you're shit at League. Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to be covering a lot of strategies to improve, and honestly, some of these strategies are highly applicable to just life. I mean, if you have one of those. I'll also impart some huge coaching tips that might honestly tick off some coaches. Please don't kill me. In story games, you can try to brute force your way through the bosses, or you can learn their attack moves. Learning their attack moves takes more time and effort, but the consistency you gain is huge. When returning to bosses that I just brute forced, I still struggle. While when faced against an enemy that I actually took the time to master, I can do them hitless. Consistently. League functions in a similar way. Whether you work on your mechanics or your understanding of the game, you will improve the consistency of your gameplay. But if you just keep spamming games, you'll win some and you'll lose some, not necessarily knowing why. There's a theory that talks about the differences between something called the performance zone and the learning zone, which is actually applicable and important when it comes to improving at anything, even video games. And the best part is that it's really simple. The performance zone in this scenario is where you just play to the best of your ability in hopes that it'll be enough. And sometimes that's the case. But as you climb, you start noticing that your performance is no longer good enough to win games. That is when you need to shift your mentality from the performance zone to the learning zone. And when you are in the learning zone, you should find one area that you need to work on, for example jungle tracking or wave management, only focusing on that area. Which I know from my own experience can be really difficult, but it is also extremely rewarding. Something that's important to note is that when you are in the learning zone, you do not measure your progress in blue or red on your history, but rather with the focus area in mind. Because when you are in the learning zone, you aren't expected to perform. You're expected to improve at that specific area. So yes, you might drop a couple of ranks doing this, but imagine this, alright? You and your friends started playing at the same time. You played in the learning zone, improving on a lot of areas, while your friend played in the performance zone, just spamming games, mindlessly. He's now gold, while you're stuck in bronze. 6 months later, he has reached plat or emerald by simply brute forcing his way through, while you, the absolute Chad, are now in diamond or master or even higher because you're actually improved from playing, while he just coin flipped every game and slowly became a little better at certain things, but never really mastered anything specific. And if you want to really put time and effort into improving, while also being able to track your own progress along the way, I highly recommend documenting every game like this. Of course, you should adjust it to your own needs. The best thing about it is that you can write as little or as much as you would like, because these are your notes. Doing this gives you insight to how well you are performing in that specific area, while also forcing you to constantly think about it, which honestly is the hardest part. So for those who would like, I'm going to leave the template for this in the description. In a similar fashion to this, there's an app called SkillGap that allows you to work on your mechanics as part of a daily routine, where you can fully embrace the learning zone, because there are no other distractions in these simulations. The app has a couple of free features that are honestly really fun, so I highly recommend that you check it out. And if you want to work on the mechanics on a high level, I do recommend that you go for the paid subscription. They have also started doing monthly rankings where the ones on the top of the list at the end of the month get big rewards. So if you think you're a mechanical god, go get that free RP. Link to SkillGap will be just below the video, right above the link to the template. Watching YouTube videos can also be super helpful. Especially that Pyke on a Spike dude. You should totally subscribe to him. Unless you have like a deep personal vendetta against learning the fun way. Yeah, I've heard his humor is kind of fucked, but hey, the info slaps. Another great way to improve is to rewatch your own games, also called VOD Reviewing. What you need to do then is to spot your mistakes and figure out what you should be doing instead. Now, if you're able to do this, then that is awesome. If not, then you aren't really getting anything out of it. That is where a coach can be of help, to scaffold your learning. Totally unbiased opinion here, just because I'm a coach, a super cool one by the way, who offers affordable sessions and happens to run things through a Discord server that's, oh look, linked right in the description. Nope, no bias at all. None whatsoever. You know, a coach is just some person who has a lot of experience and knowledge about what they teach. And preferably knows how to teach. And it can be really helpful to have someone identify your biggest mistakes. From there, you already know what to do. The coaching session is a shortcut or a speed boost, but to gain the most from it, you have to put in the work afterwards. And if you do decide to pay someone for coaching, make sure you get the absolute most for your money. Make sure that you don't need another session instantly. For this exact reason, I have compiled a list of tips and tricks that will save you a lot of money. Firstly, when VOD reviewing, use a game that's the most average, so it's applicable to most of your games. You don't need to show your best game where you stomped them on 10-0, because if that happened every game, you wouldn't need a coach. We're not stupid. If you pull up with a game where you stomp or get stumped, I genuinely tell you to find a different game for us to go through. Record the session so you can look back at it when you start forgetting. You think that's silly? Well, what did you have for lunch yesterday? You don't know? Me neither, bro. Ask questions during the session if there's something you don't understand. The coach is literally there to teach you. And if you don't understand it, that just means he needs to explain it in another way. Ask them if they can connect it to something familiar to you, like FPS games tactics. I personally love doing that. And take quick notes. Try to summarize at the end of the session and let the coach fill in the gaps. Play a game right after, with the sole focus being implementing what you just learned. Remember, when you are playing to improve, you're in the learning zone, not the performance zone. That is a vital shift in mentality. Don't forget to check out the links in the description, leave a like to help others find my videos, subscribe to help yourself find my videos, and comment what you thought was the most useful tip in this video.